let me ask you this. What was the first mobile app game?
The first mobile app.
Yeah, trivia time. We're going to start with some trivia. What was the first mobile app game?
Mobile Tetris?
That's a good guess, but no.
No?
Tetris was pretty early, but no. The first mobile app game was actually Snake.
Snake. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
like on a
right?
Nokia or something. Okay.
You had the snake that would go around and you had to chase the dot or whatever. That's widely considered to be the first mobile app game. And now we're done. The reason that I asked the question is because today we're going to talk about gaming apps.
Okay.
And I thought that we could talk about this because there are so many gaming apps on your. I shouldn't say everybody. 9 out of 10 people have a smartphone at this stage of the game. If you're over the age of 8 or under the age of 90, you probably have a smartphone. And there are a lot of games out there that people play that claim to pay you to play their game.
Yeah, I've seen those.
And so I thought it would be a good conversation to have on a Bank Chats podcast.
Okay.
To talk about whether or not these things are legit, whether you can really make money, and how much money you can theoretically make potentially, and just kind of talk through whether or not these things are generally speaking a good idea or not.
Drew's going to tell me if I'm going to be able to quit my job or not and play games.
Well,
for a
you're
living.
not.
Okay. Foreshadowing.
Spoiler alert, you're not.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to tell you about the ones that would let you.
Oh, okay.
So there are a couple of different. I was looking at different articles out there. There's articles from NerdWallet and Finance Buzz and a bunch of other MSN and a bunch of other apps. So I'm not going to necessarily cite every source as we go through this, but rest assured we've actually looked up some of this data, and some of it is going to come from personal experience.
Yeah,
I would argue too, because I've definitely dabbled in some of this stuff.
So have I. Yeah.
So the three categories that sort of keep coming up that whenever I try to quantify these apps that make you money, right, are going to be your reward apps.
Okay.
That pay you for either task work or to play something or
testing,
watch an ad, things like that.
Okay.
The second category are your quote unquote skill based games. With tournaments and things like your bingos and your card games and things like that. And then the third is just straight up lottery and raffle games and the fact that they could potentially pay you to win something.
Okay.
So what apps have you ever used any apps like this?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen them.
Yeah. I've used category A. Your apps that require you to do specific tasks.
Okay.
Though I'm not going to endorse any particular one.
Fair enough.
Because I didn't get paid very much. So the one that I used, you could either do surveys or test games. And I didn't do the surveys because I didn't want to share a lot of information with whoever created this app. So I did some game testing. And they would pay, a couple pennies to a couple dollars even.
Yeah.
But it was one of those where they get you up front where like, if you're playing a game and you hit the first 3 milestones, you may have made $5, but to get to that next milestone, it might have taken you a week to get to.
Yeah. And you kind of get frustrated then a little bit too.
Yeah, you lose interest.
Yeah.
Right.
And
a lot of these, you are watching ads to get paid, and you're watching the same ad over and over and over and over again, And most of the time it's for another game that is on that list of games for you to test,
Right.
Right. It's a gamble, type game. And
yeah, there's definitely ones out there. And, now it's gotten to the point where some of these advertisements for different games within games have gotten so misleading that it's unreal, to the point where they're now running ads that say, have you seen the ad for the game that looks like it does this, but it doesn't actually do that, but our game does?
Oh,
have you seen that?
Seen that? No.
So there's one out there that shows up a lot. There's usually a little avatar person that's running down a racetrack, And,
I did see that.
And on the one side, like it says like plus 12, and the other one says like times 5.
Okay.
And you have to try to figure out like which one is better to multiply your guys.
Yeah.
And like you're fighting off things that are coming the other direction.
Yeah, yeah.
And so many of those games, like that's like a little mini game that appears like once every 100 days within the larger game that has nothing to do with it whatsoever. And so they've now been advertising these like, hey, the game that you thought you were downloading that did this, now it's crazy how this stuff.
I just don't understand the advertising, I guess.
Yeah, it's too bad we're not in marketing. We can figure that out.
It's bad marketing.
Yeah, really, it is. Well, yeah, well, it depends on your point of view. If
Well,
you got
yes.
downloads, it's not bad marketing.
Yeah, I guess.
So
What
the
have you
skills?
used?
So I have played around like you with some of the tasking sort of stuff. So
Okay.
there was one that I checked out a while back that had you watch like movie trailers.
Okay.
And because I love movies. I'm a big movie buff. And so I thought, oh, this would be great. I get to see what's coming out and all this stuff. But in reality, a lot of it were movie trailers for these movies that you would never realistically see.
Oh.
They were movie trailers for movies that appeared on the double E list of Netflix that is basically there so that Netflix can say they have a certain number of movies on file.
Okay.
And sometimes they were different variations of the same movie. So I think they were sort of doing A/B testing.
Oh, yeah.
So
I've
trying
seen
to
that
see,
too,
like,
yeah.
like which trailer.
Which ad do you prefer? I've seen that a lot.
Do you prefer this one or that one? But like you, it became very tedious. It became very monotonous. And in reality, when you start doing the math, you start realizing that I'd have to watch, 500 of these things to earn $5. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because it was just such a small amount of money that you were technically earning
Right.
per watch.
Right.
That it just wasn't realistically, feasible for you to actually make money at it, per
Yeah.
se.
Right.
There are things out there like TaskRabbit and things like that, where there are apps where people will put out things where they'll say, hey, I have some odd jobs that I need done, or I need you to run to the store, or I need this or that. But that's more, I don't know that I would put that in the same category as what we're talking about here in terms of apps. Like these are the apps that sort of make you feel like, hey, you can just sit on the couch and do nothing but what you are already doing, playing games, but make money instead.
Mm-hmm.
I think is kind of what we're focused on today. And that's and like you said, like some of it is just watching ads and taking surveys. Taking surveys is another one that, you can take a survey and they'll ask you questions about a product or a service or something.
But like I said, then you're sharing a lot of personal information, or not necessarily personal information, but information that you wouldn't normally, tell people.
Yeah.
A lot of it during political times, a lot of it is political. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. You're right. And look, nothing's free. I mean, at the end of the day, nothing's free. If you think you're making free money playing a game, somehow, some way, the person that's putting out that game is making more money than you, a lot more money than you. They're giving you a tiny, tiny little cut of whatever it is that they're actually making on that endeavor.
Right.
Is what I would say. So if we talk about some of these skill-based games, one of the ones that kept coming up, in the different articles I was looking at were like these like bingo cash games, or like solitaire games, things like that. I've seen that one, and full disclosure, from everything that I've read, it's not so much that they're a scam, that you can make money doing it.
Sure.
It's definitely something that is, in the strictest of terms, legitimate. But again, if you think you're going to quit your job, and play solitaire for a living, it's not likely. It's not going to happen.
Well, that, and it's a gamble. You are paying usually to play this, and
Sure.
you could lose more than you make.
Yeah.
So it is gambling in the simplest sense.
Yeah, I mean, for the ones that actually ask you, so there are definitely apps out there that will give you sort of you can play the free side or you can play the pay side, right? And on the free side, I have found in my experience with these things, either through my own experience or talking to friends that have tried these things out, that the free side, you're really a lot better at that game.
Yeah, I would
than you
imagine.
are on the pay side. And some of that, you have to wonder how much of that is programmed into the software.
I'm sure.
And
build,
some of it is
build your confidence until you get to that level where you think that, I can play the paid game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but didn't you
definitely.
say you came across a YouTuber that talked about that a little bit in I don't think it was in the I don't think it was in the
an app-based thing, but
Yeah.
it was a game. It was a claw machine, or not a claw machine, but it was like they called
Like
it
an
stacker.
arcade
It was
game,
an arcade
like-
game.
yeah.
It was. So the premise of this game was you had to stack digital blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you had to stack them. It was like 2 blocks, 2 blocks, 2 blocks the whole way up, and you had to get to a certain level. And once you hit that level, then you won the big prize. You could stop at a lower level and get a smaller prize, or keep going and get the bigger prize. And
which is Price is Right, right?
Which is
That's-
Price is Right, yeah.
It's like you can take the $10,000 now, or you can take the 1 in 100 chance that it might actually get to 10,000.
But the prizes were like extreme differences. Like you could get a bag of candy, or you can get an iPad. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So most people would keep playing for that dollar, and dollar investment for an
Yeah.
iPad. Okay, I'll keep going.
Sure.
But so this YouTuber had this game in his business, and no one was winning. He couldn't win. Everybody was winning the candy, but no one was winning the bigger prizes. And for him, that was bad business. So he called the manufacturer, whoever put this game into his business, and the guy's like, well, yeah, because that's programmed like that. It's an 80-20. So 80% of the time you're going to lose, 20% of the time you're going to win. Doesn't matter if you get it perfectly centered, that block, at that level to win that big prize. Programmatically, it will move that block, and you will lose 80% of the time. So, I mean, you can't.
So at that point, you have to ask: is it really skill based, or is it not?
Right.
Because it's sort of skill based mixed with a slot machine.
Right.
Really, is what it comes down to. Yeah.
It's a game of chance at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. I can tell you, like we live in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and the Pennsylvania has a lottery, right? And they actually have an app where you can download and play the Pennsylvania lottery on your phone.
Yep.
You can either buy tickets to the drawings, or you can play the little mini games and stuff again. And again, totally legitimate. I mean, it's sponsored by the state,
right?
Or the Commonwealth, if you want to put it. But realistically, like you said, like is how much of it is skill and how much of it is luck, and you do have to question that sometimes,
right?
Even the games that appear to be skill based, you don't know what the software is doing behind the scenes to make sure that when you're playing that solitaire cash game, that we talked about, how it's chances are when it shuffles the cards and puts them in the deck or whatever, it already knows at that point whether or not you have any statistical chance of winning or not.
Oh yeah.
So you have the feeling of having control, when in reality a lot of times you may not.
Oh yeah.
Again, not to say that you never can win. I'm not trying to disparage any of these apps that are legitimate, because they technically are. But I think that what we're trying to convey here is that, they sort of sell this idea that you can have a side hustle where you're going to earn $500 or $1,000 a month or something like that.
And that's
playing
the
these
advertisement.
games.
I mean, the advertising is really good at that.
Yeah.
It makes you very confident that you're going to be able to quit your job and play solitaire for 8 hours a day. And it's not a reality usually.
Yeah. I saw an advertisement once for one of these games, and I honestly don't remember which one it was, but there was one of these games that the advertisement was a young woman who was obviously a young mother, and was just stressed out and didn't know how she was going to, handle all the expenses that were coming along for, her young child or children, and that she discovered this game, and suddenly she was, riding Easy Street.
Yeah.
And boy, that is just, to me, I don't like that kind of advertising. I think that kind of advertising is just really playing on people's emotions, and to your point, unless you are incredibly skilled, if it is, let's imagine this game is 100% skill based. You have to be incredibly skilled to win.
Yeah. But at what point is that considered false advertising too? Because there is probably that one person that was able to do that, and now it's no longer false advertising. So
there's probably if I went back and found it somewhere, it's probably on YouTube or something. There's probably some very fine print somewhere that says not typical for the average player or something, and that probably gives them the carte blanche to do it.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the same way that some of these outfits that advertise certain weight loss regimens and things like that they say
auction
here's the
websites.
before and after, and then at the bottom it says like 1 out of 500 people actually achieve these results,
right.
But I think that's kind of the point, is that these games are often advertised the same way as some of those weight loss products and things like that. It's sort of snake oil that it has the benefit of greasing the wheels. It's not useless, but it's not what it's necessarily sold to be.
Yeah. It draws you in until you get started playing, and then you get hooked, or you play for a little bit of time, realize that, hey, this is not going to pan out. But by that point, they've already shown you a dozen advertisements. They've succeeded in what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Even if you quit after a day or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say I came across one app, and again, like you, I'm not going to name it because I'm not trying to endorse anything.
Right.
There's one app out there that I came across that I still use occasionally. It's on my phone right now.
Okay.
And I was looking for a way to sort of gamify some sort of physical activity to try to, lose some weight and get healthier and all that kind of stuff. And I find that gaming makes that easier for me. I would rather play tennis than go for a walk. I would rather play, basketball than walk on a treadmill, right? So I need something to sort of take your mind off it and make it into a game, and then you kind of forget your exercising. And do you remember Pokemon Go?
Oh yes.
Okay. You lit up like a Christmas tree.
Oh, I love Pokemon Go. Yeah. Oh yeah. I was in college when that first came out, and you'd go out to the center of the campus, and you'd have 100 people walking around staring at their phones like this, like this,
Yeah, but you didn't earn money at it. But it was
but it got you like moving around, and
and you'd collect the little Pokemon and whatever.
Right.
So this has a certain element of that in it, in that you can find these little characters or charms or something like that if you walk around your neighborhood, and it'll give you a little digital map, and it'll show you like, okay, the next one is this far away. So it kind of motivates you to walk to the next goal, next thing, and you pick these things up. And it will also, there's a secondary component of it where just by walking around your average day, the number of steps that you attain, you can earn coins, right? And then you can redeem those coins. Now, here's the thing about it, though. It costs nothing. To be perfectly frank, the reason that I still sort of look at it and play with it is that it doesn't cost anything. It's not one of these ones where you have to pay to play.
Yeah.
There are a lot of ads, to be fair. So you're sort of...
They need to make their money somehow. Yeah.
But the other side of it is that, like some of these other games, it takes forever for you to achieve something.
Yeah.
So, I can collect 500 or 1,000 of these tokens, and at that point I've earned myself a $10 gift card, right?
Yeah. It's like airplane miles,
Yeah, kind of. It kind of is, and if I look at the redemption wheel every day, you get more coins for every new tier you hit in terms of steps, but I think the first tier to learn like one token is like 2,000 steps, which is really simple. Most people walk 2,000 steps just walking around their house every day. But to get to 3 tokens, you have to go all the way up to something like 8,000 steps, and then to get 6 tokens, you have to do 20,000 steps. So it's not a linear thing where you're getting, for every 2,000 steps I get a token. It's definitely made so that you have to really, really excel every single day in order to earn anything that's useful. And again, you're still only earning maybe a maximum of 10 tokens a day, even if you were to walk 30,000 steps, and it takes you hundreds of these things to earn a $5 or $10 reward. So, I think really what what I wanted to impress upon people with these things, is that, again, can you make money on them? Yeah, technically you can, but it's probably not even going to be a side hustle, and it's definitely not worth quitting your job over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Have you ever known anybody that has done these things or like played with these things much?
No. I did when I was doing some research, and the app that I was using said that, they said, as well as the article that I was reading that had nothing to do with this app, said that you could earn $50 to $100 a month was like conservative.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you can earn some money, but it also didn't say how long you were spending playing these games or taking these surveys or doing whatever,
Yeah.
So that could
Yeah.
be
Yeah. What's your
hours
per hour?
Yeah. Are you doing this for 8 hours a day and you're making $50, a month? That's not, something I want to do.
Yeah. No, there are definitely better jobs out there that pay a better hourly rate.
Right.
The other thing that you have to keep in mind with these things, and this is true of a lot of different things where people sell you on certain things, some of these, to your point, some of these apps will say like, oh, you can earn so much per month, right?
Right.
Or the average user or users can earn, I shouldn't say average user, but like the users have earned up to $10 a month or something like that, whatever it is. But you have to also think about the fact that that calculation is being done by taking 3 million users, right? And if the top 10 out of that 3 million earn a ridiculous amount,
Yeah, it skews it.
right?
Right.
It's going to skew it for the whole for the whole thing. So you can say the average user earns $10 a month, but that's only an average if you account for the fact that the top 10 people earned $1 million and the other 2,999,990 earned nothing.
Right.
Right.
Well, and you have to think about it too. A lot of these apps and websites, they have a really high minimum cash out balance too. So you may not be being paid monthly either. Some of these apps may be, $50 or $100 that you have to have a minimum in your, on your account, your balance before you can even cash that out for a gift card or, dump that into your bank account or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also keep in mind too, again, even if it is a legitimate thing, read the fine print.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the fine print will tell you that you can, like you said, only cash out at a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
Some will tell you that there are transfer fees. So if you want to transfer the money out of that app and into an actual bank account where you could spend it as money, there's a percentage that gets withheld because of a transfer fee or something along those lines.
Or you may a gift card. If you get a gift card, it may be for the face value of whatever you earned, but dumping into a bank account, they're going to take that, like you said, that fee. They're going to hold it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So keep in mind that kind of stuff too, that even if you do earn a certain amount, the other thing to keep in mind is some of these apps will pay you in tokens, like the one that I told you about, like I'm earning tokens.
Right.
I have to redeem the tokens for cash. But make sure that if you're using one of these apps that pays you in tokens, that those tokens don't expire.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Because if you don't use them in a certain amount of time, you lose them. Because that's another thing you got to be aware of. They can play with those tokens a lot in terms of making sure that you they only really have to pay you so much. Don't kid yourself into believing that they don't have an algorithm and haven't done the math on their side to know how much they can pay out in money and still make a profit.
Yeah, they need
themselves.
to win. Right.
Yeah, they're going to win. Just like you said, just like a casino.
Any game. Yeah. They're going to win.
You can go to the casino and you can win money, but I guarantee the casino's winning more.
Yep. House always wins.
Yeah. So, and these are in some ways kind of like that in some cases,
Yeah.
All right. So again, just, be aware, when you're doing these kinds of things. I think that's, what we're trying to do is just educate on financial things. Like, if you're, to your point, investing 8 hours a day to earn $50 a month, maybe earn, go pick up a part-time job delivering pizzas or something. You're probably still going to make out better.
Yeah. You'll make minimum wage at least. Yeah.
Hopefully, or tips or something.
Yeah.
We could, honestly, we could probably have a conversation about those kinds of jobs too. Things like Ubers and things like that.
We'll put it on the list.
We'll put it on the list of things to talk about because a lot of those kinds of gigs are in fact gigs. There's sort of a gig economy. You're a independent contractor, which means you don't get paid a minimum wage and you have to do all of your own taxes and stuff. So we'll put that on the table to talk about those kinds of jobs too at some point. I think that's definitely worth it.
Yeah, definitely.
So in the meantime, go play some games.
Yeah.
But play them free. You know, play the free ones.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
We'll see you, Drew.
Yep.
This podcast focuses on having valuable conversations on various topics related to banking and financial health. The podcast is grounded in having open conversations with professionals and experts with the goal of helping to take some of the mystery out of financial and related topics, as learning about financial products and services can help you make more informed financial decisions. Please keep in mind that the information contained within this podcast and any resources available for download from our website or other resources relating to Bank Chats is not intended and should not be understood or interpreted to be financial advice. The hosts, guests, and production staff of Bank Chats expressly recommend that you seek advice from a trusted financial professional before making financial decisions. The hosts of Bank Chats are not attorneys, accountants, or financial advisors, and the program is simply intended as one source of information. The podcast is not a substitute for a financial professional who is aware of the facts and circumstances of your individual situation. Thank you for listening. Please check out our full library of episodes, which can be found on the Ameriserve.com website. You can also download or stream the podcast from your favorite podcast app.